So we currently have 2 original movies that are out, and 2 very different stories along with them. On one end, we have Pixar's Elio, which, I don't know if you noticed, hasn't done so well, having not even crossed $100 million worldwide when its ballooned production budget is reportedly between $150 and $200 million. That's what happens with 2 years of delays, I guess. And not only that, but behind-the-scenes drama has now sprung out where Pixar removed all the queer-coded themes and essentially the director's voice from the original movie, despite actually being based on his childhood. Meanwhile, their dad Disney have said, "Stop telling us to make original movies if you won't see them," and basically called out audiences for not supporting original content. Because of course that's a very healthy approach to have, and totally not emblematic of so many other issues, if not just including the lack of marketing. But the thing is, actually, when it comes to audiences and supporting originals, they very much already have. Because in the midst of Elio's crash down to earth, Netflix has just had a massive hit. Of course, in the form of K-pop Demon Hunters, which is currently the #1 movie on Netflix. Critically well received, and the animated movie that everyone's currently talking about. I mean, so's Elio, just not for the right reasons. And to be honest, I had no idea how well this was gonna do when it was announced. It just kinda sounded like they were trying to build a movie around something already popular. Particularly with something that would disrupt the Eastern international market, something that Netflix is absolutely looking to do. They want world domination, and it looks like they'd somewhat have it in this movie, because the movie itself is a viral success. And there are a lot of elements that come together to actually making it a brilliant original, because it's a lot more than just a contrived trend-following movie, whilst also it does manage to capture the viral phenomena of K-pop. Director Maggie Kang pitched this idea. It wasn't calculated by a committee. In fact, in an interview, she said that she first pitched it a full 7 years ago. And now here we are, with a movie that seems to blend perfectly Eastern animation tropes with modern Western computer animation, and is conceptually unique to anything else out there. And who worked on this for Netflix? Well, of course, it is Sony Animation. The guys Pixar are only just catching up to in the form of Gato, set for a 2027 release. Or if you like, almost 10 years later after the first Spider-Verse movie. Since then, Sony themselves have only continued to show that they want to go to some interesting places. This following their previous Netflix collaboration with Mitchell's vs. the Machines, a movie that nearly got flattened by the pandemic and, in my opinion, would have flopped anyway when it was branded as Connected. Even still, that's one of my most favorite movies of the decade, and Sony is absolutely the studio that is far and beyond ahead of the crowd right now. And we're now 2 for 2 on high-quality Sony animation movies that they've just released on Netflix. Streaming. Interesting. It's been great for Sony and, of course, Netflix, who we know are only gonna get more serious in their animation offerings, having hired a former Disney animation studio head. And here's the thing. We have this original movie with a completely out there idea that has been a huge success and what you could describe as a viral success as well. Meanwhile, you have Pixar's Elio, which went the old-fashioned theatrical route, and it's crickets. It's not a "this movie sucks" kind of energy, it's just kind of an indifference in wanting to see it. And that kind of leads me to the big question, is a time coming now where original animated movies won't get theatrical releases anymore? Because it's not like audiences aren't coming to the theaters, it's just what they are seeing is a Minecraft movie and the Lilo and Stitch remake. And this kind of conversation has already been happening with original movies in general, especially with Netflix themselves winning Oscars and all the rest. That being said, we are still seeing exceptions to the rule because just this year, Sinners became one of the highest grossing original movies in years. So it's not a straight rule yet. And there are still some animation successes too. Last year, The Wild Robot made $330 million on a $78 million budget, and yet that seems to be around the upper limit for original movie box offices. Because whilst Wild Robot was a success, you then look at both Inside Out 2 and Despicable Me that made well over triple that. It seems as though the value of the original has changed. It's not like the 2000s anymore, where every Pixar or DreamWorks movie would be complete gangbusters. Imagine if they release Up Now. Old guy with a flying balloon house? No thanks, I've got the How to Train Your Dragon 2 remake coming soon. I think even the OG How to Train Your Dragon wouldn't have done as well now though admittedly it would have done better than Pixar's Up. Again, they've got dragons. It's a much cooler way to fly. Back then, just having the Pixar name was enough, but clearly Elio has shown that that really isn't the case anymore. And I don't think that's entirely down to its mid-quality. Though, as we saw with Pixar's Elemental, word of mouth can make a big difference still. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, thank you very much. And tell us your thought on original movies. Alright, back to it. Obviously, one accusation is that Disney dumping new Pixar movies on Disney Plus devalued them. That's certainly true, but it's not entirely the blame. I think streaming in general and the escalation of that market in the pandemic has contributed. Again, Netflix only continue to invest in their animation offerings now, and so they are too adding to this expectation of new animated releases at home. Not just average quality either. They're offering the likes of Klaus, Mitchell's vs. Machines, Pinocchio, Nimona, Orion and the Dark, and now K-pop Demon Hunters. They are both changing the game and how we spectate the game. Why pay $15+ for Elio when you can have K-pop Demon Hunters at home? Especially when people now know Elio will eventually appear on Disney Plus anyway. We have lost the urgency to see stuff in cinemas unless the marketing has gone full Minecraft or Wicked and created that urgency as you must see this now with a bodacious crowd. Disney seemingly used all of that energy up already on Lilo and Stitch, and then the audience took one look at Elio and said, I can wait. And I think a Minecraft movie also shows that you don't have to be a streaming movie like K-pop Demon Hunters to have a sense of virality to it. Chicken jockey screenings and all, but it certainly helps for an original project. You can watch this new movie and talk about it whilst you're still watching it. Maybe that's the kind of energy that's coming to be more popular. You can find the soundtrack whilst you're listening to it. You can find the TikTok space for it while still watching it. All on the same device. There is an interconnectivity there, and it feels particularly cruel considering Elio's story to say he's disconnected, but they just went very traditional with the marketing. And of course, you can't ignore the fanbase around K-pop itself also having a big part to play here. Even now, I think people underestimate that size of the fandom for this genre. And the success of this movie should be a huge wake-up call to that. But also, please don't oversaturate us with bland K-pop movies just because you're trying to hop on the trend. It's difficult for me because I want big, successful, theatrically released original movies to be released, yet K-pop Demon Hunters is who I'm cheering for here. It's just good animation, good original storytelling, and it happens to be on Netflix instead. I'd be so curious to hear how a theatrical release would have done. Sony only continue to showcase how creative you can be with computer animation now, whilst Elio is very much in the standard Pixar fare camp. I mean, it has the full bean faces and everything. It looks visually just generic when you stand it next to what other studios have been doing with their animation since being inspired 7 years ago in 2018. And it's not like Pixar are incapable of more dynamic animation. Elemental very much showcased that. It just feels like Elio is a movie from 10 years ago, and K-pop Demon Hunters is a movie from the future. I'd also throw Disney Animation into this discussion, but they aren't making any original movies at the moment. Which again, is why I'm really worried about what happens next to Pixar. I don't think they'll stop Pixar making originals, but will there be a switch to streaming those and only theatrically releasing sequels? I don't know, but the funny thing is how other studios are already doing that, but without getting any drama about it. What a tough spot for them. And I do wonder if Sony Animation will continue putting their more out there original movies on Netflix whilst putting their big Spider-Verse type movies out theatrically. Because they just don't seem to have the same level of scrutiny as Disney. Can you imagine that hate if Disney had a movie as dynamic as this and then put it on streaming? It feels kind of like Sony are getting away with murder here. And that's the other thing. Sony have played the streaming game the best in my opinion. You see, they don't have a major streaming platform like other studios. They sell their movies to the other services as they have here. So whilst everyone's streaming platforms stumble to actually make a profit, they're making nothing but profit. I mean, they're a big tech company, so did they really need that extra income stream anyway? I guess it hasn't stopped Apple, but then again, they have a budget of a small country. Anyway, it's a really interesting discussion, because I think there is a real genuine argument about keeping the artsy formula of big theatrical movies on big theatre experiences, whilst also at a time when money is tight, and we already have probably a Netflix subscription, making a movie more accessible to the masses by making it essentially free if you've already got Netflix, is also just a great way to get your movie out there, and an opportunity for artists to still flourish their art with brilliant animation and great new groundbreaking storytelling. It's interesting to point out whether there is some sort of nuance you can have between those two conflicting ideas. But either way, all of this to say, K-pop Demon Hunters is a crazy big success, and all the power to them. For now, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. What do you think for the future of original animated movies? Do you think there's still a place for them on the big screen, or do you think the combined success of K-pop Demon Hunters and failure of Elio is going to escalate the narrative that this is what to do now? What's people's stance on this kind of activity anyway? I'd love to hear all your thoughts and more. It's interesting, man. Anyway, I'll stop rambling, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!